Hibiki is an ordinary high school student in Japan who lives a normal life and is average in every sense of imagination. On the last day of school before the holidays were about to start, he ends up getting up late and runs to school as fast as possible. But the moment he opens his classroom door, he ends up getting transported into a completely different world in a vast grassland surrounded on all sides by dangerous monsters. He doesn't even get any time to understand what is happening, when suddenly he starts getting chased by a horned rabbit with devilishly red eyes. He has no idea where he is and why the hell is a rabbit with horns chasing after him for no reason. He runs with all his might trying to make sense of the situation when he accidentally ends up opening a stats page for the rabbit, where he can clearly see that the rabbit is a level 1 monster. The rabbit jumps in the air to attack, but just at that moment, Hibiki ends up slipping and moves out of the way. The rabbit tears through his bag with his horns, but ends up getting stuck, and Hibiki loses his balance and falls on top of the beast, unaliving it on the spot. He is very traumatized by the situation, and immediately takes out his phone to call for help. But he notices that there is no service to be found here. He tries to keep his wits about him when suddenly his stomach starts making noises as he hasn't had anything to eat since the morning. He looks at the rabbit, but realizes that he doesn't even know whether that thing is edible, and he can't even cook it without fire. Just then suddenly he is again able to see the stats of the rabbit, and learns that the rabbit is in fact edible and eaten as a stew in many areas. He still can't bring himself to butcher the rabbit and eat it, so he simply packs it up in his bag and starts moving. He tries to understand how is he able to see the stats of things, and checks whether that skill only works on living things or not. He checks the stat of his backpack, and it turns out that since the bag is not from this world, he can't really see the stats as it's made up of unknown materials. With that, he wonders what else he can do, so he checks the sky, and the skill shows that there is no target to appraise. He then turns towards the ground, and suddenly the skill shows that the target is a level 273 monster known as the Maze Eater. This confuses Hibiki as he is just looking at the ground. He checks it over a couple of times, but every single time he gets the same response. He thinks that maybe his ability is a little buggy, and decides to check whether he can check his own stats. To his astonishment, the ability lets him see every single detail about him, and all of them are correct. This makes him realize that the ability works for sure, and maybe there is some monster hiding underground. He then tries to use another ability called the Expert Eye, thinking that he would look cool, but that turns out to be a total dud as nothing happens. He decides to quickly make his way out of that location to prevent any more encounters with monsters, but he has no idea where to go. He quickly loads up a map, but it looks much different than he was expecting, with a little glowing dot nearby. He decides to follow the dot and see where it leads, and by the time evening falls, he finds himself near a cobblestone road. This excites him as now finally he can find some civilization, but in his excitement, he ends up tumbling down the grassland onto the cold cobble ground. By the time he gets up, he hears something growling in a low roar. He looks up and is horrified to see a giant dog monster staring right at him. He gets so scared by it that his sudden movements scare the monstrous dog as well, and during the confusion, an arrow hits the dog directly in the head and knocks it down in an instant. Hibiki turns around to see where the arrow came from and is delighted to see an actual person this time and not a new monster. The girl walks up to Hibiki, and he immediately thanks her for saving his life, and the girl tells him not to worry about it. She introduces herself as M, and Hibiki wonders whether she is a foreigner since she has pretty long and pointed ears. Before he could ask anything though, the girl asks whether Hibiki came down from the grasslands, and is shocked to see that he survived that. Hibiki, however, is lost in his own thoughts and asks whether M is doing an elf cosplay or something. M doesn't really understand what the boy is talking about and claims she doesn't know what a cosplay is. Hibiki realizes that he might be wrong, while M again asks what the hell was he doing in the grassland of the Maze Eater. Hibiki realizes that name from the time he was checking the stats of the ground. He tells M that he doesn't really know about it. M is surprised, asking why the hell would he go there if he doesn't even know what it is. Hibiki replies that he was just suddenly transported into the middle of the grasslands. M starts thinking what could be the reason of that, while Hibiki ends up checking the stats of the girl, and realizes that she is an actual elf and is 56 years old even though she looks like a teenager. M's voice breaks through his thoughts as she tells him that a maze eater is a monster that camouflages itself as the grassland itself and is very dangerous. She claims that it doesn't attack anyone directly, but waits for the prey to fall down out of exhaustion and then consumes it. She hugs him and tells him not to worry anymore as he did very well by just surviving through the day. By the time night falls, M takes out her pot and prepares them some tasty rabbit stew. After eating their fill, they get ready to relax, while M offers him some tea, thanking him for the rabbit as otherwise they might have gone hungry tonight. Hibiki asks her where they are and wonders whether she has heard about a place called Japan, but M replies that she has never heard of any place like that. But she tells him not to worry and promises to take him to the city. In the middle of the night, he ends up waking up after a dream and checks his phone, wondering whether his friends are worried about it. He notices beautiful green blobs of light floating in the air and checks what they are with his ability, and realizes that it's a protective spell put in place by M to sound an alarm if anyone gets too close to them. He gets up and walks around in the area taking everything in as he finally comes to terms that this is not a dream and he is in fact in a different world where anything can happen to him. Slowly but surely he also starts understanding his ability, which is that of an appraiser, a job class which is not very rare in this world. He thinks about how even in this world he is a completely average short king with no cool abilities. He shakes the thought out of his mind and goes back to sleep thinking of ways to get back to his world. The next morning they wake up early and decide to get a move on towards the nearest city. And while walking through the forests, Hibiki claims that there are a lot of monsters in the forest. M smiles at him, claiming that she is surprised he can sense that. But Hibiki replies that he can't sense anything, but he knows it for a fact because of his world map skill. M is utterly shocked and asks once again whether he is talking about the world map skill. Hibiki replies that he indeed has a world map skill, and M excitedly tells him that it is an A rank ability, which means that it is super rare. Hibiki still doesn't understand the appeal, claiming that all it does is show him where he has walked and where the monsters are. M realizes that this stupid boy isn't understanding how important that information could be for staying alive, and claims that any adventurer would die to have it. Hibiki doesn't even know what an adventurer is, so she explains about the Adventurers Guild and how it hands out quests which the adventurers fulfill. M finally understands how Hibiki was able to escape the maze monster grassland even after not knowing anything about the world, as she knows that without the world map ability, he would have been dead before the sundown. He then checks his world map and casually tells her that there is a crystal horn rabbit around, thinking that it's just another horny rabbit. But M completely flips out, asking whether he is sure he saw a crystal horn rabbit. He shows her the location and asks whether they are any different from the horn rabbits, and M replies that they are totally different as the crystal horn rabbit is much rarer, and its horns can be used to make cures for all kind of poisons. On a good day, it could be sold for as much as 200 gold coins. She immediately grabs him by the arm and runs in the direction of the monster. A couple minutes later, they finally spot the beast out in the open foraging for food, and Hibiki realizes that the horn on this rabbit does look different. Hibiki checks the stats and tells M that the rabbit has a skill called Escape and a skill which detects presence. M tells him not to worry as she herself has some skills to disguise her presence such as odor cut and sound cut. Hibiki is impressed by her abilities, but M tells him that her abilities are nothing compared to his world map skill, which can pinpoint locations of targets that are near impossible to find. She claims that any party would love to have him, even if it's a non-combat role, as in a party players trust each other with different skills. That's what makes a good party. She immediately takes out her bow and uses the wind around her to create a spirit arrow and shoots it at full strength towards the monster. The arrow moves with the speed of sound at the target, but just before it could reach the beast, the rabbit spots it, and within the blink of an eye it disappears from the clearing. M is defeated as that was her strongest shot and the rabbit dodged it as if it was nothing. She claims that maybe they should leave it, since that was her strongest attack and it didn't even come close to the rabbit. But Hibiki claims that maybe if they can make it attack him, the rabbit won't really sense the arrow coming at it. M thinks it's worth giving a try, and baits it by an ivy while quickly creating a wall in front of it. This scares the monster, but when he turns around he spots Hibiki, who has a really weak aura, so the rabbit thinks it can easily defeat him. The monster immediately rushes towards Hibiki to end him, but M emerges from the bushes and takes it out with a headshot. Suddenly Hibiki gets a notification that he has leveled up, and M grabs the crystal horn, claiming that they make a good team and maybe can work together. Later that day, they manage to arrive near the city of Roel, which is a bustling town filled with people from all places. Once inside, M realizes that Hibiki looks very weird with his conspicuous looking clothes, so she covers him up with her cloak, claiming that it might be a little long since Hibiki is a short king, but it would do for now, and with the money they will get after selling the horn, they can basically get him some clothes, and even have money left to get some arms and armor. Hibiki asks how much even is 200 gold worth, which shocks M as how can someone not know about the currency of the world they are in. Hibiki quickly racks through his abilities and realizes that 200 gold is roughly equal to 10 grand. While he was thinking about how much dough they are moving with, M comes up to him and gently touches his face before claiming that even though she knows how new he is to this world, but she tells him that he should refrain himself from showing everyone in this world how clueless he is. Otherwise, people will definitely take advantage of his innocence. A little while later, they enter the Adventurers Guild, and apparently many people know M, and they start asking whether she finally decided to work with someone and create a party instead of going solo. But when they have a look at Hibiki, they start laughing, asking whether she is now taking babysitting gigs. M gets heated and tells them to shut up, as even though Hibiki looks like a child, he is just an adult who is vertically challenged. A different guy from a party tells the other guys to back off and show some respect to people, and pats Hibiki on the shoulder, telling him not to take their words seriously before leaving with his party. M tells Hibiki that the guy belongs to the famous party called the Silver Banner. With that, they move towards the receptionist named Jewel, who turns out to be a beast woman, which surprises Hibiki yet again, as he has never seen anything like that before. Jewel seems to know him as well, and asks what does she want today, but M tells her that she is actually here to sell something, and requests for a separate room. Jewel takes them to a separate room where Hibiki finds a huge boulder of a man who is super ripped, as if he just came from Mr. Olympia. Hibiki immediately gets impressed and starts glazing him for his physique, which makes the man even happier, and he rips his clothes off to give Hibiki an even better view. While the girls watch in disgust, the man introduces himself as Bale, the guildmaster, and shakes Hibiki's hands, while Hibiki asks whether he can touch his muscles and starts asking for gym workout plans so he can also get a physique like Bale. The girls get jealous of their bro bonding session and use their magic to knock both of them to the ground. Once the floor was mopped up, they all sit down finally to discuss what M wanted to sell, and she produces the beautiful crystal horn from the rabbit proudly. Bal is super stoked, as he claims that this is even bigger than the one he saw 3 years ago. M feels happy about it, and asks how much would Bal pay for it. To her surprise, Bal claims that he would buy the horn for 400 gold coins, which is double of what she initially wanted. Hibiki thinks that they are getting a good deal, but to his surprise, M turns him down, claiming that she is not stupid, and knows that the horn from 3 years ago was sold for 230 gold coins. She claims that the horn that she has brought here is 3 times the size of that horn, and yet the guildmaster is only offering twice the price. She claims that since this one is thrice as big as the last horn, she wants 3 times as much money, which is 800 gold coins. The math ain't mathing in Hibiki's mind, but he decides to keep his mouth shut and let M deal with this. Bal claims that he can't afford to pay that much, and offers 550 coins, while M counters with 780 coins. After a lot of back and forth, Bal is finally forced to offer 700 gold coins through clenched fists, and M claims that they have a deal. M is super happy, but Jewel doesn't seem to be amused, as she smiles scarily and tells Bal that since they went much over their budget, they will simply have to cut the extra money from his salary next month. Bal is shocked, but he can't say anything as Jewel starts talking and claims that for a dumbass guild master who doesn't even know the budget they have before they start to haggle, it's the perfect punishment. M gets really excited and happy, thinking that now Hibiki would have no choice but to asks M to take him in his party so that they can go on even more adventures and earn money. Hibiki, however, doesn't say anything and leave M to discuss the money situation and transfer with Jewel, while he goes downstairs and waits on a table, when he suddenly hears voices in his head. At first he thinks that he is getting schizo, but then he gets sure that someone is talking to him. It turns out to be the literal god of this world, who claims that he has given Hibiki special abilities like tutorial, and with that, he can slowly learn about this world without feeling overwhelmed. The god claims that he can't talk to him all the time, and will only be able to contact him sometimes, but promises to help him as much as he can, so Hibiki stays alive in this world. With that, he doesn't explain much and disappears once again, leaving Hibiki with more questions than he had before. He tries to call the god again, but no luck with that. But at that time, M also arrives and was moving towards him, when suddenly a guild member hands her an envelope, claiming that she has got a designated quest for her. M opens up the letter, and suddenly her entire demeanor changes as she simply tells Hibiki that she needs to do something out of town and she can't deny the quest, but she can't take him with her either, as it is going to be a super dangerous mission. Hibiki understands her and tells her not to worry, promising that he would be alright on his own. He is not really sure honestly whether he would be alright or not, but he feels like he has already troubled her enough, and she has helped him a lot, and he shouldn't be completely dependent on her either. M isn't really sure, and claims that she has asked Jewel to keep an eye on him just in case, and asks what exactly is his plan going forward. With a smile, Hibiki replies that he is planning to register as an adventurer at this point as he saw the quest board, and there are some quests that even non-combat roles like him can take up. M tells him to be very careful, and with that, she hands him a map of a house where she was staying in the city. She claims that he can sleep there while she is gone, and tells him to ask for Tanya at the Goddess Inn. She promises that they will meet soon enough, and with that they part ways for now. Anne quickly heads towards the exit gate where she ends up bumping into a black-haired girl and knocks her over. She quickly picks her back up and apologizes, claiming that she was heading back to her country on short notice and was in a hurry. The girl seems interested and claims that it's a coincidence since she herself was planning a journey to the elf country and asks whether they can go together. Back in the city, evening falls and Hibiki feels completely lost without M, and all he has done is sleep on the bed doing nothing, and even God is not responding to his calls. His thoughts are broken by a knock at the door, and the owner of the inn named Tanya enters, asking Hibiki whether he is alright since he hasn't had anything to eat since the morning. She claims that dinner is about to be served and calls him down to eat. Hibiki sits back, up and thinks about how he needs to also find some work, since he doesn't know how long the horn money will last him. He checks his stats once again, and realizes that solo combat is completely out of picture, but he does have a special ability which can help him memorize medical books just by going through those pages. He immediately uses the skill and a medical book appears in front of him through magic. But instead of him reading the book ends up violating Hibiki's brain by directly shooting inside of him. It literally continues for a couple of days, and then one morning it's finally done. Hibiki finally gets up and decides to do some shopping. The first step is to visit the nearest armory, and from there he gets a bunch of basic gear, which would help him blend in with the people of this world better. With that, Hibiki decides to head over to the guild to find some quest. But before he could even talk to Jewel, the door flies open, and the party Silver Banner enters looking beaten and haggard. He notices that the silver-haired guy who spoke to him kindly seems to be injured. With that, the guy falls to the ground, and Hibiki notices that literally an arm is missing from the silver-haired guy. Jewel gets worried and claims that Bal is out of town at this moment, and asks whether they tried other healing magic. But the party shakes their head, claiming that it didn't work. Hibiki wonders whether he could save the man's life, and asks to have a look. One of the girls in the party gets mad at him, claiming that they want a healer, not an appraiser. Hibiki however tells them that he has read some books and can try to save him. He realizes that apart from being chopped up, the guy also has poison in his body, and Hibiki doesn't have enough mana to use the spell needed to clean his body of that poison. He immediately asks if anyone in the guild has that ability, but no luck. He realizes that the silver-haired man doesn't have much time, when he realizes that he has an ability with which he can temporarily increase his mana by getting it from other people. The members of his party alongside Jewel all agree to transfer their mana into Hibiki, and soon he channels all the mana and uses a very high-level healing spell, which removes the poison from his body. Immediately after he uses a second spell which restores all the limbs of the man, bringing him back to full health. Before he could celebrate though, he ends up getting knocked out cold by the effort, and when he wakes up, he finds himself in a guild room where Jewel immediately thanks him for saving the guy. Apparently, the silver-haired guy named Jade is Jewel's brother, so she was really worried about him. With that, she tells Hibiki that the enchantments that he just used are completely unheard of in the city, and if the word gets out, someone will definitely try to take advantage of him. She claims that it would be best if he hires a bodyguard, maybe a half-beast, half-human fighter. Acting upon Jewel's recommendation, Hibiki heads over to the Debbie company in search of a bodyguard. The place looks like a royal estate instead of a slave house, and inside a strange man named Ajarathan Debbie introduces himself. However, Debbie drops the formalities and immediately starts sniffing Hibiki's scent because he can smell that Hibiki is going to be a very valuable client. Debbie shows Hibiki several buff guys which should be right up his alley. However, Hibiki ends up rejecting all of them. It's not that he cares too much about strength, but these guys lack mana, which Hibiki desperately needs in his bodyguard, especially if he wants to use the healing magic again. Debbie decides to show Hibiki some more bodyguards that might be to his tastes. But then the voice of God tells the young adventurer to go out and find one for himself. The thought never really crossed Hibiki, and he chooses to ignore it for now. Continuing with Debbie, Hibiki has to apologize for being such a difficult client. However, the man does not care at all. After all, he can smell the sweet scent of fortune coming from Hibiki. After using his appraiser's skill on Debbie, Hibiki finds out that he possesses the weird ability known as sense for money. Debbie can literally smell when a client has money or is about to get rich in the future. This is the reason why Debbie is being so accommodating. Hibiki then notices a strange section of the manor where the aura feels a little different. Debbie explains that this is where they keep the specimens who are unfit for battle or can't go back to their homeland. These are flawed bodyguards, and it might just be the place where Hibiki can find someone suitable. So he decides to check out this area as well, which makes Debbie even more delighted because anything he sells here is going to be profitable. Walking along the well-lit corridor, Hibiki sees a battered cage with a wounded wolf man and a little girl inside. The wolf has both its arms and a leg missing, while the little girl looks scared out of her mind. According to Debbie, the wolf went on a rampage trying to protect the girl. While not exactly a crime, rules are still rules, and both of them were caged up. The little girl even has magical powers which should raise her value. However, she cannot control them, which often leads to devastating incidents. Hearing Debbie and Hibiki talk about them like products makes the wolf man lash out. He growls and tells the kid to get lost. A little scared by this interaction, Hibiki is still pretty much unfazed, so he decides to consult with Sapo. He begins the appraisal process but meets his first roadblock. The wolfman and the little girl have false stats, likely a protection so that no one ever buys them. However, Hibiki also discovers that he can use an enhanced skill known as Expert Eye to reveal their true stats. This ability is not only rank SSS, but is something randomly rewarded by God. At this point, Hibiki is starting to feel a little unnerved because his entire existence in this world is turning into a giant cheat code. Now, with the help of the Expert Eye ability, Hibiki takes a look at the wolf man once more and finds some interesting information. The wolf actually has a name: Claude Abridged. He is 26 years old and his job is that of a level 15 knight. Hibiki also finds a curious skill known as immovable chain, which sounds more like a curse. However, he's not interested in reading so much information right now. A further investigation reveals that Claude is also a level 95 hero. Hibiki has never seen such a high level. He almost loses his mind. He then decides to use the appraisal skill on the girl and finds out that her name is Lillian Rouge and she is a sage. Once again, there's just too much information and Hibiki's head is starting to hurt. However, he finds out that Lillian has an ability known as Raging Sanctuary. This skill is a trial placed on God, and it cannot be controlled by a human being, so it leads to self-destruction. Hibiki looks up at God, wondering how he can be so cruel to such a little girl. However, God remains casual because this is a trial that a sage must go through. Now that Hibiki has all the relevant information, he decides that Claude and Lillian would be great bodyguards because of their extensive mana. However, he still has some reservations because of Claude's unknown curse. So Sapo jumps in with a suggestion and tells Hibiki to use the relief measure skill. Apparently this skill should lift the curse on Claude and help him out in some way. Hibiki confirms his choice with Debbie and the creepy guy gets a little too excited. The thought of someone like Hibiki making such a profitable purchase is enough for Debbie to consider this the best day of his miserable life. Hibiki no longer thinks that this place is safe, and he quickly leaves with his new bodyguards in tow. On the outskirts of town, Hibiki finally gets to speak to Claude and Lillian outside of their depressing cage. Hibiki makes it clear that he's not going to do anything bad to the girl, but he does have plans in mind for Claude himself. Hearing this makes the Wolfman feel uncomfortably suspicious, but Hibiki is only talking about his ability to heal. He simply needs Lillian's help to help heal Claude's missing arms and legs. Lillian is more than happy to help out Hibiki, even though they just met an hour ago. This entire time Claude has kept Lillian safe no matter what, so wants to return the favor by helping out in any way she can. Hibiki instructs Lillian to accept his contract so that her mana can be transferred to him instead. The eager little girl quickly agrees to the contract and lets her mana flow into Hibiki. With the contract set in motion, Hibiki now has the required mana to use the perfect heal ability and restore Claude's broken body. Hibiki activates the spell as a flash of intense light envelops Claude, and he howls in pain. In just a matter of seconds, his body gets restored to its former glory. Lillian is amazed to see her beloved Claude return to his normal self. This act of kindness is proof that Hibiki is not going to hurt them, and Claude slowly opens up as well. Hibiki then asks Claude if he feels better, and while it will take time for the Wolfman to reach his former strength, he feels the remarkable change throughout his body. Hibiki understands that Claude will require time to gain back his full powers. After all, he has an unknown curse placed on him, making it difficult for the wolfman to exceed his strength. Yapping away like that might land Hibiki in trouble because Claude's curse is supposed to be a secret. The wolfman is almost tearful to learn that someone in this world knows that he has a curse placed on him. Hibiki also reveals that in the future Lillian is going to be a sage. Claude is seriously starting to get freaked out at how much this little kid seems to know. Hibiki blurts out that he was given the expert eye ability by God himself. This should be impossible for any mere mortal in this world. This ability is divine in nature, and not something that a person can easily acquire. Hibiki is now more determined than ever to lift the curse placed on Claude. He activates the level 1 relief measure skill, which reveals several chains tightly gripped around Claude's massive body. A giant scissor then appears in the sky, threatening to pierce through Claude's entire body. The scissor moves closer, causing Lillian and Hibiki to freak out, but it simply breaks off one of the chains. Hibiki is left a little disappointed. He was hoping that the skill would lift the entire curse, but that's not possible. The relief measure skill is only level 1 and capable of breaking all the chains. Even so, this is a moment of great gratitude for Claude. He kneels down and apologizes to Hibiki for his rudeness. Now the wolfman has nothing but kindness for his new master. In fact, Claude is so moved, he wants to perform the ceremony of allegiance, a pact which creates an unbreakable bond. With this ritual, Claude will always stay by Hibiki's side, protecting him and showing loyalty no matter what. Hibiki is more than ready to form an allegiance with Claude, making the wolfman wag his tail like a dog. However, Sapo suggests that using the contract skill would make Claude even more. The contract will place an obligation on Hibiki to keep his promise as well. As expected, Claude starts tearing up when he learns that Hibiki wishes to use the contract skill as well. The clouds begin to part ways and streams of light appear as Claude pledges his loyalty to Hibiki. He pledges his entire body, mind and soul as Hibiki places a golden sword on the wolfman's shoulder. As the ritual is complete and Hibiki accepts the allegiance, he is amazed to see a glowing sigil light up on his hand. Claude has the same divine light emanating from his hand as well. According to Claude, this is the crest of the light spirits, and it's a sign that his loyalty has been acknowledged. Finally, it looks like Hibiki has gained new companions, even if he did technically buy them. While Hibiki has been making new friends, Amelia has been heading back home with her weird maid Stalia, who is alarmingly obsessed with her. Since the girls have been traveling for a long time, Amelia wishes to visit a nearby hot spring. However, while Stalia would love to get some alone time with Amelia, the thought of Ivel being there turns her off. But Amelia is desperate to make new friends, so she forces her companions to hit the hot springs no matter what. Back on the outskirts of town, Hibiki has been talking to Claude and Lillian about their journey and designated role. He enters into another contract with them, and then receives a level up to his grimoire skill. This entire time, Hibiki has also been talking to Sapo, so Claude starts to wonder if his new master is mad or actually talking to someone real. Hibiki reveals that he talks to a voice that speaks to him and helps him out. This causes Claude to connect more dots, and he asks Hibiki if he also possesses the tutorial skill and whether he has the title of Wanderer from another world. It would seem that Claude knows a lot about Hibiki and his role as someone from an ice sky. The wolfman always heard about the existence of other worlds, but never thought they were real. Hearing about Hibiki's amazing God-given skills makes Claude reveal further information. He believes that Hibiki's powers are connected to the chief god. There are 11 gods in this world, and the chief god is not only powerful, but also a complete idiot. Hibiki then wonders if the curse placed on Lillian was probably the chief god's doing as well. Lillian had no idea that she had a life-altering curse placed on her, so when she finds out that her magical powers will probably destroy her, the little girl crashes out. It would have been better for Hibiki to keep his mouth shut, but it's a little too late for that now. Plus, Claude believes that Lillian's curse might be related to the god of magic instead. Up in the heavens, the god of magic has arrived, determined to take revenge from the chief god for spewing his own nonsense. Hibiki's mind turns into a battle arena for the gods as he can hear the god of magic beating up the chief god. She is far more proud and cold than the god Hibiki is used to hearing. The god of magic reveals that she has bestowed the grimoire ability to Hibiki, allowing him to help out Lillian in the future. But she is not the sort of merciful god that you can pray to every day. After speaking with Hibiki, the god of magic continues to torture the chief god, while Hibiki bears the torture of having all of these voices in his head. Once things have settled down, Hibiki activates the grimoire skill, only to find a fluffy white cat staring at him. This adorable little creature is called Veen, and she is supposed to be the grimoire itself. However, Lillian and Hibiki can't get over the cuteness of the creature, causing Claude to feel incredibly jealous. Every time Hibiki pets Veen, he can feel Claude's aura changing behind him. Once the petting session comes to an end, Veen explains that she has been sent by the god of magic and will help Hibiki in his travels. Watching Hibiki pet the cat is the last thing Claude wanted to see. His day is ruined and he starts crashing out, causing little Veen to freak out as well. Meanwhile, Amelia has been enjoying the hot springs as well, completely oblivious to her maid's creepy advances and Ivel's suspicious behavior. Stalia believes that Amelia can't force Ivel to become her best friend. Such things take time. Plus, Stalia doesn't want anyone else to get close to Amelia. However, Ivel overhears the conversation and decides to stir things up by offering to rinse Amelia's back, a move that will likely send Stalia into hysterics. He wants to make sure that they are battle-ready, so Hibiki watches as Claude picks out impressive armor and a spear for himself. He doesn't like wearing too many pieces in order to avoid a bad case of overheating. Lillian also receives new clothes which suit her very well. The shopkeeper is happy to gain such wonderful customers, and he happily shares that the price for all of this equipment is only 25 gold coins. While Hibiki and Lillian are shocked by the hefty price, Claude finds it very cheap. Lillian feels bad for getting something for herself, so she tries to return her own cloak, but Hibiki doesn't mind spoiling the poor girl. He even wants Lillian to pick out a staff for herself so that she can practice magic. While it is nice to see Lillian happy, Hibiki knows that this shopping spree is burning a hole through his savings, and then Veen gets jealous and wants a fancy collar as well, which ends up costing 15 gold coins. The shopkeeper is more than happy to get paid as Hibiki dies internally from his lack of funds. Once everyone is equipped and ready, Veen begins her magical training. While Claude has the abilities to fight on his own, Lillian and Hibiki lack the necessary training to become true adventurers, so Veen hopes to teach these hopeless losers a thing or two about magic as the grimoire itself. But Hibiki still has no idea what the grimoire is, so he turns to Sapo and asks her to provide an explanation. According to Sapo, the grimoire is a rare skill which can allow the user to learn all manner of knowledge. Hearing this makes Hibiki wonder if he can also learn magic, but Veen makes it clear that he is only capable of learning basic, useless spells. With his hopes of doing magic completely destroyed, Lillian clams down everyone and Veen begins her lesson. The first order of business is to control Lillian's magic output. For this to work, Hibiki needs to be registered as an accountable person. Apparently, all Veen needs to do is violently bite Hibiki in order to help Lillian control her mana, but it seems more like a cruel joke than an actual lesson. Veen then tells Lillian that her mana remains the same, but her magic output has been reduced to 10%. This percentage will slowly increase as the little girl learns to use her powers. Now Veen turns to Hibiki because he needs to learn magic power circulation. This ability allows two people to circulate their magic flow within each other, creating a sense of harmony and control. Hibiki is having a hard time keeping up with the lesson, so Veen asks Claude to circulate his magic within Hibiki. The young adventurer and the wolf man touch each other's hands and soon, the power starts flowing. 1 minute Hibiki is standing in a field with his companions, and then all of a sudden he is somewhere entirely different. This place is dark and there are countless stars in the sky. Hibiki then notices a beautiful elf sitting near a lake. She turns back to him and calls out to Claude instead. Hibiki realizes that he is within Claude's body and witnessing his memories, aware of his own existence. Claude sits beside the elf and calls her Anastasia. From Claude's perspective, Anastasia is the most beautiful elf he has ever seen. Together they spent a long time wandering around, protecting each other. Claude has only the fondest memories of Anastasia, but then he recalls the violence. One night, the moon turned red and Claude found himself mortally wounded. Standing before him was Anastasia covered in blood and clearly responsible for the attack. All of a sudden, Hibiki wakes up back in the field with Claude looming over him. The wolf man is worried about his master's condition as he gently wakes him up. Hibiki still believes that he is Cladu, but then his memories slowly come back. Claude apologizes because he allowed too much magic to flow into Hibiki's weak body, and the boy ended up wandering too deep in Claude's consciousness. Veen scolds Claude for not listening to her instructions carefully. However, she is hoping that Hibiki saw something embarrassing in Claude's memories, something that she could use for her own scheming. But Hibiki only saw a beautiful memory which he still has no idea how to explain or understand. Veen's stupid lesson finally comes to an end, but Hibiki still needs to practice household magic. This form of magic requires the user to complete trivial chores like sweeping the floor or dusting around a room. If the user emits magical energy while doing housework, then elemental spirits will gather the energy as a form of payment. Once the spirits are satisfied, they will teach the user how to control household magic. This isn't the type of hardcore training Hibiki had in mind, but according to Sapo, training through housework is the only way to unlock this type of magic. After some time, Lillian and Claude arrive as well, hoping to have dinner with Hibiki. However, the clumsy wolf unknowingly overturns a bucket of water, causing another mess for Hibiki to clean up. Apologetic for his thoughtless behavior, Claude gets on his knees, begging for forgiveness, but Hibiki believes that small mistakes like this make Claude appear cute. Hearing his master call him cute makes Claude feel emotions he never thought possible, and he starts descending into existential madness as Hibiki cleans up the mess. Desperate to win favor with the elemental spirits, Hibiki works tirelessly, cleaning every surface that he can find. But his efforts are futile because there is still a long way to go. However, there is someone who is very pleased with Hibiki's work, and that's the innkeeper Tanya. She is amazed to see how spotless the inn is because of Hibiki's idiotic obsession, and even offers to give him an extra dish for dinner. As everyone heads for dinner, Claude overturns another bucket of water, losing his faith in himself in the process. The following day, Veen continues to teach Lillian how to control her magic powers. The little girl has made considerable progress, but compared to her, Hibiki is in a sorry state. He has no idea how to train with a sword. This is why Claude has the perfect solution in mind. He ends up giving Hibiki a bow, hoping to turn him into an expert archer. Unfortunately, Hibiki has no talent for archery. His posture is horrible. His aim is non-existent, and he can't even hold the bow properly. Claude's instructions fall on deaf ears as Hibiki decides to give up, or at least go on a little break. His hands have been rubbed raw because of the string, but Claude offers no excuse for slacking off. He wants Hibiki to use his healing abilities to mend his wounds, and then go right back to training, as Claude continues to force Hibiki to become an archer. Meanwhile, somewhere in the wilderness, Emilia is wondering what Hibiki is up to. Both Ivel and Stalia notice that Emilia is in a particularly good mood, but they don't know the stupid reason behind her happiness. As the three companions walk together, a fork in the path appears. While one path offers a shortcut, Emilia sees it best to avoid taking that route. According to her, there is an abandoned fortress near the path where evil spirits like to play pranks on passing travelers. This is exactly the type of trouble that Ivel likes, so she forces everyone to take the shortcut. Even though Emilia rejects the idea, Ivel mentions that the fortress might have some hidden treasure, and with her funds running low, Emilia jumps at the opportunity to make some quick cash while exploring an abandoned fortress. As the three companions head towards the haunted fort, Hibiki and his companions are having a relaxing time practicing their skills together. Hibiki is now tasked with preparing the meal for the day. Lillian eagerly waits around, hoping to help with the cooking as well. Together, the two budding adventurers manage to prepare an excellent feast. After some time, Hibiki and his companions sit down for a surprisingly lavish meal. Everything tastes great, and even Veen is not complaining like she usually does. However, there is one problem. Claude's side of the meal prep is severely lacking. Not only did he fail to clean the mushrooms properly, but he also ate all of the apples that were needed for the dessert. Ashamed of hiding his own mistakes, Claude vows to help Hibiki butcher monsters and gather whatever parts Hibiki might need in the future. Despite this bold declaration, Hibiki is not impressed because Claude needs a lot of work when it comes to cooking. Blaming his curse for his lack of abilities in cooking, Claude is eager to help out Hibiki once the curse is lifted. Even though his words appear to be empty, Hibiki never really asked Claude how he got cursed in the first place. So he finally asks the wolf man for an explanation for his curse, but is only met with a defiant no, which is clearly suspicious. Letting go of the matter, Hibiki starts cleaning up the dishes. There are some things that are still harder to do in this world, and he misses the comforts from back home. As Hibiki continues with his tasks, Sapo informs him of an urgent matter. She tells Hibiki to check his world map because there is a wild boar fast approaching the area. Claude quickly confirms the arrival of the beast and prepares to confront this intrusion. They watch on as the boar charges straight for Claude, only to be met with a precision strike from his spear. The wild beast immediately falls down, succumbing to a single attack. Impressed by Claude's strength, Hibiki and Lillian move closer to take a look at the dead boar. However, Claude believes that the scent of the beast could attract other monsters in the area, so it would be best for Lillian to use her magic for the first time and clean up all the blood on the boar's body. Excited to be useful for the first time in her life, Lillian uses her water magic to cast a spell known as odor isolation. Water sprouts from her staff and quickly cleans up the mess, leaving behind a spotless, dead boar. This should have been the end to a perfect day. However, Claude believes that this is the perfect time for Hibiki to learn how to butcher an animal properly. Not ready for the filth and guts ahead, Hibiki regrets ever bringing up the topic with Claude. Meanwhile, Emilia and her companions have arrived at the creepy fortress. The place looks dark and desolate, and chances of finding treasure appear to be slim. Ivel uses her mysterious mirror to confirm the presence of nearby spirits, but her attention is quickly drawn by Emilia, who can be heard crying out from joy. Emilia has found an impressive treasure trove, a room covered in gold coins and different types of jewels, while Stalia has also found treasure of her own. She finds herself enjoying Amelia's assets to her heart's content. Ivel finds the two fools acting out their fantasies. Ivel uses her powers to dispel the spirits who are clearly tricking the two gullible women. Hibiki has also made some progress and finally learned how to butcher an animal. But now everyone is covered in filth, so Hibiki decides this is the perfect time for him to use his newly acquired bubble wash powers. Poor Claude ends up being the first test subject, and he can only stand still as Hibiki directs his washing abilities towards the dirty wolf. At first, the wash seems like a disaster, but then Claude wipes away the bubbles only to reveal silky smooth fur. The bubble wash has not only cleaned Claude, but given him a new lease on life. So far, Hibiki has been having a lot of fun on his journey in a new world, but the question of money completely left his mind. Now, after buying expensive gear for his companions, Hibiki has to tell Lillian and Clade that they are going broke. According to Hibiki, the only way to save themselves from poverty is by getting some money from the guild. However, since Hibiki and the others are still technically not adventurers, they will have to start off with the dreaded F-rank quests that no one likes to complete. After discussing the matter with his companions, Hibiki registers himself, Claude and Lillian as a party in the Adventurers Guild. Now they can start accepting quests, but Hibiki did not anticipate getting bombarded with so much work. Claude has accepted almost every quest under the sun, so that they can start earning money quickly. Since most of the quests are low level, Claude believes that Hibiki will need to accept several of them in one go in order to make a decent amount of money. Depressed at the prospect of working so much, Hibiki then notices several more quests, including a wanted poster for a bandit who has recently been stealing from the rich. Since Hibiki can't really work on the bandit case, he forgets about the matter and heads over to the forest to complete his first quest. Hibiki looks at an unsuspecting crystal rabbit. With his bow in hand, he is ready to strike down the monster, but it ends up taking Hibiki an embarrassing amount of time to finally hit the mark. Claude can tell that Hibiki is still quite weak when it comes to any sort of physical work, but it was still a good shot for a rookie. Meanwhile, Lillian has also been completing quests by gathering all types of herbs. She has found a special type of fruit which can serve as great markers if the party ever gets lost in a forest. Lillian demonstrates the sharp, bright colors of the fruit as Claude and Hibiki stare in awe. After a tiring day in the forest, the quests finally come to an end, however. Hibiki never really got a chance to think about life back home. For a moment, he wonders if his friends will be starting their summer vacation and what they plan on doing. Nostalgic for his life back on Earth, Hibiki realizes he needs to start finding a way back. The day turns into night, and now even Amelia and her party are close to completing their journey. Amelia can sense that Ivel is feeling down, so she gives the girl a piece of jewelry to lift her spirit. Usually annoyed by Amelia's antics, Ivel happily accepts the small token. Back in the city, Hibiki and his party have earned quite a bit of money after completing their quests and selling all of the herbs. In fact, the receptionist at the guild was so shocked by the amount of herbs that she became suspicious and asked Hibiki if he actually bought them instead. Now Hibiki wishes to have a quiet, peaceful day in the city, but then he runs into Bals Dilliard, the guildmaster. He has finally returned from the royal capital. However, Bals is surprised to see that Hibiki still hasn't gained any muscles at all. Determined to turn the weak little boy into a man, Bals tells Hibiki to train with him. But then Claude gets really jealous and tells Bals to back off. The proud guildmaster refuses to back down because he believes he is the only one who can help Hibiki. However, Clade believes that muscles are something that should be built over time with care and practice. Bals mocks Claude's pathetic approach, and he decides to take things to the next level. Taking off his coat, Bals exposes his ripped muscles and then starts fighting Claude. The wolf man uses his spears to strike down the guildmaster, but he is clearly outclassed. Bals is an absolute beast. His body is built like steel, and he is talented with the sword as well. Hibiki is so shocked. He turns into an entirely different character. He can't believe that these two old men are fighting because of him. All of the nearby people run away from fear because things are starting to get out of control. Hibiki asks Sapo to appraise the guildmaster, and he finds out that Bals is a league above everyone else. Bals tells Claude to back off, but it is clear the two of them are gearing up to fight even more viciously. Before things can get out of control, Jewel arrives and uses her ice powers to blast away the wolfman and the guildmaster. Just then, a fat lady who looks like she's quite rich starts running through the seats because someone stole her purse. Hibiki and the others watch on, but then Hibiki notices that his own bag of money is missing. Hibiki just got paid by the guild, and now the money is gone. Hibiki starts freaking out, while Jewel believes this must be the work of the bandit. This criminal can apparently turn their tail into a snake, use it to tickle people, and they only attack the rich. Determined to get their money back from this freaky bandit, Hibiki decides to dress up as a clueless girl and visits a cafe with Lillian. Hibiki's disguise is a little too perfect and he feels depressed because he looks much better than a girl. The plan here is to leave a pouch of money on the table so that the bandit can grab it. Then Claude, who is also sitting nearby, is going to jump into action and chase down the criminal. After placing their orders, the food finally arrives and the waitress puts the pancakes on the table. But then Claude tells Hibiki that they have been tricked. The waitress was the bandit, and she has taken the money and is now running away. Thankfully, the money pouch has been rigid so that it can leave behind a trail of color. It doesn't take long for Hibiki and the others to track down the bandit into a dark, weird alley. At the end of the alley is a strange set of stairs which leads to an underground tavern of some sort. All manner of shady-looking people are gathered here doing weird things. Hibiki and the others enter this bizarre place, but Hibiki is still in his disguise, so weird men start hitting on him. A jacked guy with no shirt tries to flirt with Hibiki using a handkerchief. After ignoring the weirdo, Hibiki then runs into another shirtless dude who violently kills a mosquito. None of these people look like the fluffy-tailed bandit, but then Hibiki notices a strange person in a hood. This hooded figure is definitely sticking out like a sore thumb, so Hibiki and the others decide to follow the stranger. Beneath the hood is a strange girl with a giant fluffy tail. Hibiki tells the stranger to give back the money she stole. However, it is clear that the girl is not scared at all, so Hibiki threatens to use his appraiser powers on her. Despite the fear tactic, the girl, whose name is actually Fauna, does not react at all to the pointless threats. But then Hibiki reveals that they know everything and Fauna is forced to remove the hood and expose herself as a beast girl with the most beautiful tail. Shocked by how hot Fauna is, Hibiki and Claude demand that she hand over the money. But Fauna is the one who laid out the trap. She lured Hibiki to the underground tavern where she stole more of his money. And now once again, Fauna has rigged the alleyway and uses a cheap trick to cause several wooden planks to fall right on top of Hibiki. Thankfully, Claude jumps in, keeping himself and Lillian safe and pushing Hibiki away so that he can chase after Fauna. Unwilling to let go of the bandit, Hibiki rushes after her but falls for another one of her tricks. Fauna looks back to see Hibiki tangled up in her wire trap, hanging upside down and begging to be let go. Hibiki cries out for help as Fauna mocks him, but then the beast girl notices that Hibiki is actually a guy. Hibiki's wig drops and his pants are exposed. Fauna actually finds him very cute in this state, so she offers to give the money on one condition. Fauna wants Hibiki to appraise a couple of items that she has in her possession. Accepting this simple term, Hibiki and Fauna go back to the underground tavern where they begin the appraisal process. First, Fauna asks Hibiki to appraise a special ring, which turns out to be a valuable ornament. Then Fauna asks Hibiki to take a look at a pearl necklace, which actually turns out to be fake stones. Seeing no value in the pearls, Fauna throws them away. Hibiki is then presented with a dagger, and after appraising it, he finds out that it's a dagger used mainly for ceremonial purposes. Impressed by his abilities so far, Fauna then pulls out a special item, a wooden bracelet. From the get-go, Hibiki can sense that the item is not particularly valuable, but it does have interesting details. Hibiki's appraisal skill reveals that the bracelet is carved with a design which is loved by beast men. It also includes a message from someone called Diana. Hearing this makes Fauna uneasy, and she demands to know what the message says, and then Hibiki informs her that the message is a simple thank you. Fauna sits back down on her chair limply. She tells Hibiki that this bracelet was given to her by her little sister. Fauna could never find someone who could decipher the message for her since she can't read, but now she can finally know the words left behind by her little sister. Hibiki then asks Fauna if her little sister knows that she's now a rotten bandit, but Fauna reveals that her sister is dead. There was an intense back home and Fauna lost everything. Speaking from experience, Fauna tells Hibiki that if he also has a home, then he should try to get back no matter what. Otherwise, he could end up losing it forever and never receive a chance to go back. Before leaving, Fauna tells Hibiki that every beast man has a tragic past, including Khalud, and he should make an effort to ask the wolf man about his background. She then leaves Hibiki with a kiss and his money, never to be seen again. The day comes to a close and Hibiki returns to the tavern where Tanya tries to remove Fauna's lipstick marks from Hibiki's face. Bowles is there as well, and he has an important message to share with Hibiki and the others. According to the guild master, a new young and energetic party has emerged from the kingdom. They are known as the Corpse Killer and have been ordered to take care of the undead by the king himself. Shocked to hear that this world has undead monsters, Hibiki freaks out at the news. Bals believes that the party is traveling to the city and could arrive any day now. Hearing this makes Hibiki even more nervous because that means there are undead monsters in the area. Later on, Hibiki, Claude and Lillian talk about the wild day they just had and how many new things Hibiki learned in the process. Eventually, he would love to go on a journey and meet someone knowledgeable. Claude realizes that Hibiki is probably talking about a sage. In this world, there are grand sages that have lived for over 500 years and hold immense wisdom. Claude then asks Hibiki why he wishes to speak to a sage, but his answer shocks him and Lillian. Hibiki wants to return to his own world, and asking a sage might help him out. Hearing this response makes Claude and Lillian really sad. They never really thought about Hibiki leaving one day, but Claude promises to keep protecting Hibiki for as long as he remains in this world. Meanwhile, Emilia, Ivel and Stalia have arrived at the end of their journey as well. Emilia then reveals that a few days ago, she heard a strange voice telling her to go east where something precious has dropped. Shocked to hear this, Ivel realizes that the thing she is looking for is actually in an entirely different location. Unapologetically, Ivel says a half-hearted thanks to Emilia for all her troubles and then coldly leaves the group. Emilia is too stunned to speak, and she just watches Ivel leave without even saying a proper farewell. The next morning, while having breakfast, they discuss about their plans further on, and Clow confirms whether Hibiki is sure that he wants to find all the sages in the country and consult with them about his issue. And Hibiki replies that he thinks that is the only way to go forward and get a lead. Clow thinks for a moment and replies that if that's the case, then they have no option but to move towards the city called Terradinas, as that's where they would need to start their search. Hibiki has no idea where this city is, but Veen tells him that the city can be reached by going through a dungeon, and she thinks that the closest dungeon through which they can reach the city should be the North Dungeon. Hibiki apparently has never played a single game or ever read a book, as he has no idea what the dungeons are. But Clow explains that dungeons are places that are teeming with monsters everywhere, and it's considered highly dangerous. He thinks that unless and until they train a lot, the chances of them clearing a dungeon would be very slim. Hibiki thinks about how the hell are they going to clear a dungeon. But Lily doesn't seem to be in the mood to talk as she gets up from the breakfast table and decides to head back to her room. Just then, the guildmaster also arrives and asks if everything is okay. But Hibiki replies that recently Lily and him have hit kind of a rough patch. Guildmaster tells him to forget about everything as he will deal with it, and takes him out into the forest to start his training camp. He tells Hibiki that he should quickly get some bulging muscles by training so that he can go through the dungeons. Veen wants to go back home, and even Clow doesn't really want to be here. But he does agree that getting some training wouldn't be too bad if they want to clear the dungeons. The guildmaster tells them that muscles always come in handy, so there is no downsides to it. But Clow claims that he doesn't agree with him, and he won't let him turn Hibiki into some roided-up meathead. While they are arguing with each other, Hibiki realizes that he doesn't have any choice and must go through this ordeal. The training soon starts, and the guildmaster immediately starts working on his core strength by having him lift stones, break walnuts with his fingers, and carry heavy load to slowly condition his muscles to hard labor. Lily watches this entire thing from above and claims that Hibiki seems to be trying his best to train. Veen agrees, considering that he doesn't really have any skills. At least he is giving his all to complete this training. Lily gets sad once again, wondering whether this is how bad he wants to go back to his home. Veen senses it and claims that they should wait for him to make his own decision and stay with him till the very end, no matter his decision. Tanya also comes at that moment, claiming that the inn didn't have much traffic today, so she decided to take the day off, and sits by Lily to watch Hibiki train. By the time evening falls, Clow starts training him once again in the ways of archery. But he seems to be just as bad as he ever was, unable to hit a single arrow into the target while literally being few footsteps away from the target. Finally, after barely hitting a couple of targets, Hibiki collapses with exhaustion, claiming that he doesn't think he could train anymore today. Clow tells him that he did a great job, but tells him to try and hit the center from the next time. Even the guildmaster tells him that even though they can't see it yet, he must have started developing some muscle mass already. He wonders whether he has gotten any stronger, so he checks his own stats only to realize that nothing seems to have changed at all. The guildmaster laughs, claiming that they should have focused simply on the strength training and maybe then they would have seen the results. But Clow argues that skills are more important than that. They were about to have another fight when thankfully Jewel arrives and breaks off the fight and invites them all for a warm bath in the springs. Inside the springs, Hibiki notices that Clow looks very content and asks about it. Clow simply replies that it's been a long time since he was able to relax this way. That's when Hibiki remembers what Fauna told him about the Beast People's homeland and how it's ravaged with some kind of war. He ends up asking Clow about his homeland, claiming that he never told him anything about it. Clow smiles a sad smile and replies that his homeland used to be the capital city of Beastronia, the Beast Kingdom, but it got completely destroyed and any and all companions or friends that he ever had died with it. He claims that it doesn't really matter now since that was a long time ago, and what's important now is for him to stay by Hibai's side and see things through to the end. After the bath, they all sit around a campfire where Bals is already asleep, while the rest are huddled around the warm fire relaxing in the cool beautiful night. Suddenly Lily speaks up and tells Hibai that she knows how hard he is trying, but she doesn't want him to leave her and go back to his own world, since she loves him very much. Hibai immediately gets sad and apologizes to her, claiming that he can't stay, but Lily tells him that it's okay, as she starts wiping off her tears, claiming that she knows that she is being completely unreasonable, but she can't help it. With that, she gets up and gives Hibai a cup of warm liquid, claiming that she learned how to make it from Tanya, and it is supposed to help with exhaustion. Hibai thanks her and takes a deep sip, telling Illy that she has done an incredible job and that he is already feeling better. With that, the little bit of uneasiness that was between the two vanishes into thin air. The next morning, when they were returning back to the forest for training, suddenly Clow feels the presence of someone else in the area. Hibai immediately opens his world map but doesn't find anything, when suddenly Clow turns around and immediately takes his spear out to attack whoever was behind them. It turns out to be a young blue-haired woman, who tells them that she means no harm and was just passing by. Hibai is confused, as he didn't see her in the map. So how is she here? So he decides to appraise her just in case, to make sure that nothing was amiss. Everything seemed to be normal, so he tells Clow that it's okay. Clow apologizes to pull her spear on her, but she tells him not to worry about it and introduces herself as Ivy, who is an E-ranked adventurer and lost her way through the forest because she got chased by a huge monster wolf. Hibai immediately asks where did she last see him, but the girl seems more interested in Clow as she claims that she has never seen a beast man before and starts checking his muscles out, and then has a long look at Lily before bidding them farewell as she leaves from the area, claiming that she would see them soon. After she was gone, Hibai wonders what was up with that girl as she seemed weird, but opens up his map to check around and spots a monster deeper into the forest. They immediately chase after it, and it turns out to be the same monster wolf that the girl was talking about. They chase him into a corner, or so they thought. But it seems like something is wrong, as the wolf would have known the jungle better than anyone else, so why did he corner himself like this? Hibai decides to check his map just to be sure, only to be horrified as he realizes that this was all a trap, and they are currently surrounded by a huge pack of monster wolf, eager to rip them to shreds. Clow realizes that he is insanely nervous as he has no idea whether he would be able to deal with these many wolves at once. But before he could even do anything, one of the wolf somehow reaches behind them secretly and slashes at Hibai with its claws, causing a huge wound in Hibai's body, which knocks him out on the ground as blood starts pouring out of him. Clow immediately starts fighting off the wolves, preventing them from coming close, while Lily tries her absolute best to try everything. But she can't seem to stop the bleeding no matter what. Unbeknownst to them, the entire plan was created by Ivy herself, who watches the entire scene unfold from atop a tree and wonders who lifted the beast man's curse partially. Clow realizes that he won't be able to fight and protect Hibai at the same time, so he tells Lily to quickly take Hibai back into the town and to Bals, who would be able to stop the bleeding and heal him. Lily is scared for Clow and asks when will he come back to them, but Clow himself is unsure whether he would be able to survive or not. But he doesn't have any choice but to hold the monsters back to give Lily and Hibai a chance to escape. He tells Lily that he will be right behind them and they shouldn't worry about him. Lily believes him and creates a lion with her earth-bending magic, carrying Hibai with her, while Clow stands in between to make sure the wolves don't go after them. The wolves don't seem to care about Hibai, and that's when he realizes that the wolves are actually after him and not Hibai. The wolves start attacking him once again while he tries to push them back, when finally a huge wolf comes forward, and when Clow looks into the wolf's eye, he feels the gaze of his first love, Anna, burning inside it, the elf who destroyed him. Meanwhile, Lily carries Hibai away, wondering what will happen to Clow, but she can't think about anything else for long as a bunch of wolves start chasing after them as well, forcing them to immediately run for the nearby cave where they barely manage to escape, and Lily quickly uses her earth bending to seal the entrance. But the leader of the silver wolves is too strong and uses his tentacles to break through them and starts reaching for Hibai. Lily manages to use a powerful spell and push the tendrils away, while Hibai tries to check his own stats and realizes that he doesn't have much time. He quickly tries to activate a healing spell on himself, but he doesn't have enough physical or mental strength right now to be able to do that. He thinks about how both Clow and Lily are trying their best and are literally fighting for their lives right now. If he doesn't get a hold of himself quickly, they might not be able to survive this. Building up these emotions, he suddenly gets a burst of energy and manages to activate the Hyper Cure spell on himself that cures his injury to an extent. With that, he immediately uses his Summon Sacred Beast ability, which causes a huge lightning storm and turns Veen into a huge panther, who uses her lightning skill to completely destroy every single wolf in the area at once. Hibiki immediately asks whether they could defeat the huge wolf who is near Clow with this same spell. But just then, Veen turns back to her normal self, claiming that she won't be able to take that avatar for a while now. He claims that they need to go back to help Clow, but Veen tells him to reconsider, as the wolf that attacked and injured him was the Silver Diamond Wolf, which is the pack leader and incredibly strong. Hibiki claims that it doesn't matter and that they can't leave Clow behind while he is trying to protect them. It's their job to protect Clow as well. Just then he realizes that he has gotten a new ability called the Medicine God Staff. Without reading it fully, he activates it, which immediately heals him and Lily to full health. Suddenly a plant starts growing right in front of his eyes, and from one of its branches a bow is formed. Hibiki plucks it out and appraises it, only to find out that it's a spirit bow of the chief god. He remembers how used to do something similar with her bow, so he tries it out, only to realize that the bow is incredibly powerful. With that in his hands, he decides to finally face the wolf monster and save Clow's life before anything bad happens. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.